went back home. They went to school. And the crossover for baccalaureate degrees between men and women, believe it or not, was 1970. More women in the United States got baccalaureate degrees in 1970 than men. In 2009, more of them got master's degrees. In 2012, more of them got doctorate degrees. And around the world today, the majority of people who graduate with baccalaureate degrees in higher education, in almost every country save some, are women. That is a huge shift in who's educated. Just begin to imagine what the impacts of that will be. This is a trend that's not flattening, it's still growing. Just imagine how that will transform the workplace over the next 10 years. Just imagine how that will transform the boardrooms over the next 10 years. Another weak signal, LOL, BRB, OMG, NetSpeak. Everybody believes that that's a weak signal of the end of language as we know it. It's destroying language, that it's been adopted by all our children and that their brains are dysfunctional. I mean, the whole thing that's on the streets about this and the way it's been used is like it's going to kill and destroy existing language, and it's a bad thing. This often happens with weak signals. But actually, this is going to be an amazing weak signal if you look at the future, and I'll show you some of this. It's a very interesting and very positive sign of the development of the brain. So just think about it. The reaction to it, we want everybody to turn off their cell phones, not to multitask, not to talk in shorthand. We keep hoping, because our conventional wisdom is how you learn is how we learn. But beware of conventional wisdom, for it's nearly always wrong. So there's a lot to be learned with this. Make bot 3D printing robots now that are being created in garages for only $500. You can print out household goods in your own home. Think about that as it scales. It costs $20,000, $30,000 to buy anything remotely like this out of a big company. Ricochet workers, those are people that work multitask, which we think is terrible and bad and going to ruin everything. But the ricochet worker is a very interesting, viable worker of the future. And we'll talk more about that later. Brain fitness. China files more patents than Japan. Everyone who thought that China didn't innovate, just imitate, should just take a look at their patents. So these weak signals, and that's the kind of thing that you want to be able to do. The fourth law of the future is beware of conventional wisdom, for it's nearly always wrong. Jobs always come back after the recession. They're never coming back the way they were before. Doctor knows best. Our healthcare system's falling apart, and the shift to health is moving to the consumer, because if you want to be healthy, you got to take care of yourself. And the whole transformation of medicine is upon us. The United States is a safe haven for other people's money for the foreseeable future. So there's lots of conventional wisdoms today. They're basically sacred cows. They're things that we navigate and drive our lives by. And the best thing to do with your sacred cows is put them out to pasture. Turn them into hamburgers. They're not going to be too useful to you. So the strategic imperative is not to let the short term cancel out the long term. When we're at this stage in one of these cycles, just imagine if we didn't have all those innovators in the Renaissance and we just sort of were there with the destruction of everything and nothing happened. Can you imagine what it would have been like? So this is really the time when you get through all the structural shifts and all the destructions of the institutions that are mismatched to the issues and needs of the time. The healthcare system's totally mismatched to the issues and needs of the time. It was built for people that died when they were 50 and had acute diseases and didn't have antibiotics. It's built on a model that has nothing to do with how people are healthy or sick today. And yes, it's extremely expensive. The cost benefit is extremely low. Obviously mismatched with the issues and needs of the time. So don't let the short term cancel out the long term. Keep that divergent thinking going. You all have a special skill that we need so much of. So I'm going to now, unless everyone's getting dizzy from this ride, I'm going to run you through drivers and trends. I selected 7 that I thought would be useful and interesting to you. There's a couple that are useful and interesting to everyone. So first of all, demographics are king when they hit. They are destiny. They transform everything in their path, and they're big ones. And there happen to be a couple big ones. There's nothing bigger than the shift from aging to healthy longevity. We have never had, ever in the history of the human race, the number of people that we have over 60 years of age on the planet today. Almost if you added up everybody before now, you wouldn't have as many. This is historic. This is the biggest success story of the 20th century. People are not having their activities of daily living modified until they're 75, for the average. That's an amazing difference. It wasn't very long ago. At the turn of the century, people died when they were in their late 40s. We didn't even know we had a middle age until 1950, because nobody lived long enough to have middle age. So in my map, I called it the Geezer Glacier. So we've met the geezers, they're the boomers, they are us. And we're going to melt away very slowly, and we're in quite a lot of trouble.